Blood, Guts, and Blu-ray is part of Court and Parts,
podcast network featuring pop culture, TV, movie, and geek podcasts. Check out some of our other shows: Geek Gravy, We Got 5, TV Ate My Brain, and Get Real Movies at courtandarts.com.
Hey everybody, don't turn off the podcast just yet. This is Mike Sangregorio from the Sketch Provcast. On October 22nd at the Hackensack Cultural Arts Center in Hackensack, New Jersey, we're going to be filming our first original web series, Sketch Prov Live. Tickets are $10 at the door if you're going to be in town that night, but we also need your help. We just launched a Kickstarter to help raise money for a modest budget. It's going to really up the quality of the show and give you, our audience, the best possible show that we can produce. Details are on sketchprov.com right now, so log on and find out how you can help us out. And a big thanks to all the shows here on courtemparts.com, and don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to all of them. Woo! I am pumped. Let's do this.
Guys, I want to apologize for the technical difficulties that you're about to hear. You're going to hear some annoying echo from time to time. Setup was really weird. Sorry about that. Enjoy the episode.
Coming to you undead from Elm Street in fictional Haddonfield with a beautiful view of Crystal Lake, the podcast where every day is Friday the 13th and every night is Halloween. You are listening to Blood, Guts, and Blu-ray, part of the Core Temp Arts Podcast Network. Here are your hosts, Bloodbath, Bub, and Brett 667, the neighbor of the beast.
Hello and welcome to another edition of Blood, Guts, and Blu-ray, number 11 to be exact. My name is Bloodbath.
And I am Brett 667, the neighbor of the beast.
We are the official horror podcast of Core Temp Arts. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen. We are on YouTube, TuneIn, Google Play, I think, and Stitcher and iTunes. Make sure you rate, review, and subscribe on iTunes. Bub's not here with us today. He had a loss in his family, so of course Brett and I send out our condolences and attempt to forge on.
Naturally, of course.
Ironically, he picked the movies that we're going to talk about. So, I'm actually recording this episode tonight in my parents' garage in the greatest state in the fucking Union, New Jersey. This is where it all began for me.
908. It's both of our beginnings.
Yeah. It's not the same house I grew up in, but whatever. The reason I bring this up is it's not to gloat. It's to apologize in advance for all the fucking noise that's just inevitable. There's a fridge in here with a compressor that goes on and off. My parents have 3 shitty little dogs that bark incessantly. There's a high probability that my folks may even poke their head in here and ask me what exactly it is I'm doing. I'm 32 years old. My parents still don't get me.
I'm sorry, but I gotta interrupt Bloodbath because I just keep thinking about the fact that you keep having to record in strange, exotic areas. I mean, maybe this should become a thing. From the pool house to the garage. This is Brian Bloodbath.
When I asked my dad if I could record here tonight, there was almost like disappointment in his voice that I'm still doing shit like this.
Hey Ma, can I play my drums?
It's the same disappointment he had when I brought home like shitty VHS tapes from the video store. Nothing can match the confusion and awe and just general weirded outness of him trying to understand why I would want to rent Faces of Death for a second time.
Oh, I can see his face.
But the movies that we're going to talk about today are basically like direct-to-video classics in a lot of ways. We're going to talk about Puppet Master, and we're going to talk about Demonic Toys. Both are produced by Charles Band. His company was called Full Moon. It went by Full Moon Productions, then Full Moon Entertainment, then Studios, and then settled on Full Moon Features. They sort of cornered the market on cheaply produced but good-looking near psychotronic C films in the late 80s and all the way through the mid-90s. Full Moon is a straight, direct-to-video rental production house that produced exclusively with Paramount I'm just going to give a little history lesson before we get started. Band wanted to churn out schlock, so he got bad actors and student actors to star in his films. He kept his locations to a minimum. He basically trimmed all the fat to get these titles into your video store. You probably passed a few of them by in all likelihood, and you will definitely remember some of the box art because some of that stuff is just unforgettable. He's also notorious for cutting out directors in things like anniversary editions and behind-the-scenes footage, DVDs, extras, things like that, because he wanted to create the illusion that he and he alone is like the brain trust behind all of these films. That's not just me saying it. And each of the directors in these two films that we're going to talk about have not been quiet about the money and respect that Charles Band allegedly owes them. So, for number 11, we're going to talk about just two of these films. Both are the first part of a respective franchise. That's what we're doing every 11th episode. We're going to do that. So for episode 22, we're going to talk about two part 2s. For episode 66, we're going to talk about two part 6s. And then, obviously, for episode 100, we're probably going to talk about Jason X. You have to.
You have to, yeah.
The flagship... both are the first part of franchises. The flagship film for Full Moon is Puppet Master.
In a house of mysteries.
This hotel seems to have quite a history, Mr. Gallagher.
Who are you people?
A research team with special powers.
Oh my God.
She's experiencing the past because we are all joined by our thoughts.
Has uncovered an ancient secret.
I have something I want to show you.
Metaphysically speaking, I killed myself.
But they are playing with an evil force.
What would you do with the power?
You can't save her, Alex.
They have given life to a deadly power.
We're all in danger.
And now a box of little toys
I think someone's in the room, Frank.
has become a gang of little terrors. Pinhead, Blade, Ms. Leach, Jester, and Tunneler. Irene Miracle, Paul Lamont, Barbara Crampton, and William Hickey as the Puppet Master.
And the likely runner-up is Ginger Dead Man, but we're not going to talk about that till Christmas. So, Demonic Toys it is, which we could have probably also saved till Christmas, but whatever. Puppet Master was released in 1989. It was directed by David Schmoller. In it, there is 1 count of naughty, 6 counts of body. Never made it to the theaters, so we don't know what the box office was, but the budget was around $400,000. Brett, why don't you go ahead with this synopsis?
All right, so in Puppet Master, it deals with a group of 4 psychics with all their different unique powers that are all brought together under a creepy hotel to meet with a former associate theirs that has died, but before he died released a psychic message to all of them. It seems that this man who has passed away may have discovered the ability to bring inanimate objects to life, something he has learned through research from an old puppet master back in the Nazi era. And of course, mayhem ensues when the puppets crawl out from the walls and attack the guests, leading up to a very interesting conclusion.
Oh, Brett also didn't mention that he's in like the middle of a tropical storm right now.
That was in the back of my head. I didn't want to intrude, but yes, I am watching through my window as it's calm, and then suddenly violent rain and winds are blowing across here. So I might just disappear randomly.
And if that happens, we're sorry. You know, we can't control the fucking weather. But
Yet.
Yet. Until we write and produce Weathermaster.
Ooh, I like that.
Weathermaster would actually be pretty sick. But
or like there's 4 Weathermasters that are all about different types of weather.
Of course. No, those are the origin films.
Oh, so we bring them up for the Weather League?
Yes, the Weather League.
Dead weather. Iron Cloud.
Ugh.
I know.
God.
We could go on forever.
Acid rain.
Acid rain, yes.
And then all of the bad weather gets defeated by Captain Planet.
Well, obviously, that's he's gonna bring the planet back to 0. Or pollution. He's gonna bring pollution back down to 0. Actually, we should have Captain America bring the planet down to 0. Just say fuck this shit and just destroy everything.
This begs the question: what is heart? You know what I mean? Like Earth, Wind. They didn't need to bring that guy in there. Never.
And it's such a bullshit power.
They should have just had the 4 powers. You know what I mean? They're trying to create like the 5th element basically.
Well, what they could have done is they could have had him be antimatter and have him be like a really depressed, weird kid that just like he knows about being in nothingness. It's like that's all he knows.
Yeah, and all he listens to is like The Cure. which is fine. He probably would have been at that point would have been my favorite character. Because if you were growing up, you're like, my favorite character was the fire guy. Every boy who watched Captain Planet, the fire guy was the best guy.
That was the only one you paid attention to.
Yeah, and then that was it. I mean, there were other people, fire dude, and Captain Planet himself. And I remember also after that, so I watched it like almost every morning before I went to school, and it was either before that or after that was James Bond Jr. And if you never,
oh my god,
do you remember that show?
Yep.
Oh, that was a bad one. That was a
what was the show with the little Mini Max? Was it Mini Max or whatever that they had the toys come out? That was also a TV show around that era where they had the little miniature figures. It was like Mighty Max or something.
Mighty Max.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was like, and then they stopped making those because like there were so many of those going up little kids' noses.
Oh, choking hazards abound.
Totally. I had like 2 Mighty Max like little pods. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they're like skulls that would open up.
Yeah. They were dumb. And then there was Captain Bucky O'Hare. That was another one.
That's right, there was.
And Battletoads. I loved Battletoads. I still love Battletoads.
Battletoads is still awesome. One of the hardest video games ever, but after the show.
Oh, that was a tough game, yeah. And then there was the 2 Sonic the Hedgehog. There's the 2 Sonic the Hedgehog games. Or games, excuse me. There's a million Sonic the Hedgehog games. But there's the 2 cartoons. There was the one that was like a Looney Tunes type thing. Like, oh shucks, Sonic again. And then there was one that was like really dark.
I actually, side note on that, the past 2 Christmases, my mother has found me somehow the box set for the first Looney Tunes one with Urkel as the voice of Sonic.
So he was the voice for both, but he had like 2 different like contracts. They were both done by ABC, but one was every morning. And, it was like a clown show every morning, and then on Saturday morning was the really, really dark one.
That was the one where his dad was made into a robot, right? And he was trying to free him.
Yeah. The other one is just like I can't even describe it. It's just it could probably end up on fucking Cartoon Network now, honestly.
I remember
like Adult Swim.
It had one robot that had drills on his hands, and the other one was shaped like a chicken.
Yeah, something like that. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, it was really stupid.
Because the game, if you play the game, like the mood of the game is closer to the Saturday morning one than it was the daily one.
It's pre-environmental. You know, you're saving the wildlife from the evil big boss man kind of character, and then which that Saturday morning one fit perfectly because like there was the chick hedgehog with like the robot leg.
Yeah. And then
that was a good fucking show.
And like Tails would pop in every now and then, but like not. But it was like there was like still a rivalry because they were like, you know, it was almost like Judgment Night, but a fucking hedgehog. It was a wild show. And then there was do you remember Moo Mesa? Do you remember that one? Moo Mesa were cowboys that were actually cows.
No, I don't remember that one.
Oh, that was a Saturday morning one. I remember watching that one. That up. So there was there was a time when TGIF, like the night before the new season of Saturday morning cartoons aired, which was the first Friday after you went to school. Instead of showing any of the new TGIF shows, or they would cut one of the shows out and they would just show you previews of what you would see the next day, on the next morning for Saturday morning cartoons. And there was like, I remember it being like Moo Mesa, and then Crow, which was about cavemen, warrior family, which was actually kind of a really good show. And then I'm thinking it might have actually been like the New Adventures of Doug came out. When he went to college or something, or high school. Went to high school, or I think we went to high school and he had like long hair. And Roger Claus was like super rich.
And wasn't what was her name? Was it Phoebe Beats or whatever? Wasn't the school shaped like her face?
Phoebe Bluff, yeah, or
Phoebe Bluff.
BB Bluff. Bluffington, yeah, it was Bluffington.
Yep.
Oh, that was Chalky Studebaker and Skeeter.
Skeeter Valentine.
And then there was and the Beats. I actually have the CD of all the Beat songs somewhere.
Oh my God! Can you somehow find that and like get a copy of that to me? Because I want to drive down the road blasting.
I have it on another computer. I have all the songs, but I have the physical CD.
Even better.
Yeah, I forget. I think it was one of those things where actually I think it was my mom was doing like back to school shopping and she got the CD and she didn't know what it was and she was like. Because she got like, I guess if you bought something, you know, you got like this free CD, and she's like, I don't know if this is appropriate for you to listen to. And then I had to like show her the Nickelodeon thing on it, and she's like, oh, okay, okay, here you go. That makes sense. And then it had Where's My Sock? Obviously, it had Killer Tofu. Shout Your Lungs Out. They only had 4 songs out. Yep. Shout Your Lungs Out, which was awesome. Where's My Sock was a cool song too. And then, and there was another one. I can't remember. I'll probably shout it out during the middle of this episode tonight.
I would hope that it would have the bonus track be banging on a trash can.
No, it didn't have that on there, but that song was really good.
Yep. The little voice is calling me.
Think big.
Oh my God! Think big. I just see the big 90s suits they wear in the music video.
Yeah. I wish that they actually had, like, you remember when they watched that movie, The Abnormal?
With the zipper?
Yeah, and he was scared. I wish that movie was real, and I want to watch it.
Well, we can make it.
It's just like, it's like Entourage, and we're totally getting off topic here, but in Entourage, all the movies that Vinny Chase made, I would want to see those.
Oh God, yeah.
I want to see, what was it, Queens Boulevard?
Queens Boulevard, yeah.
Yeah, I have to see that. And then the Fire Jumpers one, I thought would have been an awesome concept for a movie.
And that was when he was the firefighter, right? Who was the director of that? Wasn't it like Used Bowl or something like that?
Yeah, the one that was in, was he in Girl with the Dragon Tattoo? I think it's the same guy. He's like a.
Is it? Oh wait, is it like the Skarsgård father or something like that?
Yes, that's him. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. He's I actually like him. I think he's a great actor.
He is. He plays a really menacing character.
And I also, I have sort of an affinity for like anything Swedish. I think just Sweden in general is pretty cool. Minus IKEA. I think it's pretty cool. So. Anyway, so let's get back to talking about Puppet Master now that we've
completely deviated.
I hate when we do that, but sometimes it's really funny. Anyway, so let's give the filmmakers a little bit of credit here. The puppets in Puppet Master are pretty lifelike. I was pretty impressed with that. They each one sort of had like a personality, and it's pretty good considering it's 1989. The technology to really do good puppet stuff just wasn't there. I don't know how you feel about it, but
two of the puppets that stood out to me was Pinhead. I thought that their attempts at his hands were done really well. If I read correctly, wasn't it a dwarf woman that actually played?
It was a dwarf stunt woman, yeah.
And I know that she had difficulty with it, and I was impressed at the attempt. It was obvious, but for that time, I'm sure it was great. But I really liked, I think they called her, I can't remember the name of her, but was the Leech Queen?
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't know any of their names until, I did a little bit of research, but I had I was like, I wrote it down somewhere here where it's like evil, sexy fuck puppet or something like that.
Officially, that's great, yeah.
With that vomits leech. Which was awesome, by the way.
But I looked into like how they made it and everything, and how they made the stretch, and how the leech can only come out a certain percentage, and then they had to do editing to make it look like it came out of her mouth. And I thought that was one of the few parts of the movie I really kind of grimaced at, because it looked creepy. Her mouth, the way that it stretched, it just looked really creepy.
Yeah. And I'll ask you this question later. I have a question in my head that I'm wondering if maybe you picked up on, because I think I might have missed it. This is like full disclosure here. This is the first time I've seen either one of these movies. I know that they've been around forever, and I definitely remember seeing the Demonic Toys box art right next to Dolly Dearest in the video store. I remember it distinctly, and I just never wanted to rent it. And then the Puppet Master one, I think I remember it, but I can't be certain. But what I do like about this movie is I'm a very big Barbara Crampton fan, and she makes a very small appearance in this movie. She's the girl that has her fortune read right in the beginning. But Barbara Crampton is basically my favorite scream queen ever, and she was definitely in this movie to kind of like. It's like horror movie star power. That's why she was there.
Make it legitimate.
Yeah. And I love her. And I love every movie that she's in. The Reanimator is one of my favorite movies, and she's fantastic in it. And she's super sexy. This is 80s Barbara Crampton. In my opinion, the best scream queen ever. Scream queens are dead now. And that's...
They are.
Except for Danielle Harris, but she's been like grandfathered into it, because she's still making movies, and she's really stayed true to like the horror genre and stuff. Like this, I love Jamie Lee Curtis like everybody else, and she's definitely a true scream queen. But she went off and did other things. She's a better actress than that. She just started as a scream queen, and then she moved on to other things. Some people just know where their talents lie, and they stay there, and they just get better at it. And Barbara Crampton did. And if you've seen We Are Still Here, which came out last year, she's something like 55 years old, still looks pretty good for her age, and can still scream her fucking brains out. So it's pretty awesome. The feel of this movie, though, combined with Barbara Crampton's presence, made me think it was a Stuart Gordon directed H.P. Lovecraft story hit hybrid that got like rejected and found its way to Full Moon. I got 15 minutes into this movie and I already sort of got lost. And throughout the movie, the logic in the story just seemed like dopey and loose.
Yeah.
Like you think the old guy in the beginning is evil, but then he kills himself. Then the real bad guy, Gallagher, is also in a casket with a self-inflicted gunshot wound. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on here? Like, I know they're not the same guy, and I know they're not trying to pass those two off as the same guy, but they just did such a bad job of
separating those characters. I mean, both those people didn't need to shoot themselves in the head. They could have like one could have jumped out the window when like the old guy in the beginning that was in Christmas Vacation. He could have jumped out the window when those two guys barged into his room. And then it would have made this story 10 times clearer. It's just little things like that, like the little attention to detail when it's not there. That's the kind of stuff that puts me off. Does that make any sense?
Yeah. No, and I agree because I found myself it's crazy because the same exact thing, like 10-15 minutes in, I found myself Googling the plot to try and kind of catch up and figure out like who these people are, because they don't give any context to them. It's just like it's the couple and they're psychically evaluating a girl and looking at a machine. They don't explain what it does, and he's reading something, but she's reading sexual terms, and then I guess technically the main character, I don't remember their names because they just weren't important enough to remember, but in my opinion,
I know the main guy was Alex, and
So Alex wakes up with leeches and stuff, and like I see they're trying to be foreboding, but there's just not enough context for me to be like. It took 30 minutes for them to be sitting around the table for me to like actually get a solid idea about why they were there and what was going on.
Yeah, and no one in this movie has a likable personality. Nobody's easy to relate to. Nobody has a good haircut. So it made it very difficult to develop like a perspective. Perspective means like everything. It's what makes your movie good or makes your movie terrible. And this one just didn't have one. I mean, you're just kind of, as the viewer, you're just sort of dropped into this, this really nice hotel and just have no idea what's going on. And you pick any movie, any one of the movies that we like, even fucking Return of the Living Dead. I mean, you have multiple perspectives, but they're all. I picked Return of the Living Dead not because it's a bad movie, because it's definitely not, but because it's a hokier movie. It's a jokey movie, but the characters aren't in on the joke. And it's usually movies like that lose their perspective and try to make up for it with schlock. There's multiple perspectives in Return of the Living Dead that they don't get clouded. They actually they interweave themselves very well. So, and that's part of the reason why it's such a great movie. So I'm just saying. You were about to say something.
Well, actually, what I was going to say, the best metaphor I can come up with is if you ever go to a party and you walk into a crowd of people and there's somebody there you don't know and they're telling a classic drunken story about four of their friends, how they went on an adventure. But they keep looking at you like you should already know, like, and you know Greg, classic Greg, he just disappears, we found him later. You kind of nod along to it, you're like, okay, but you have no connection to any of these people, and okay, so maybe the story has some entertaining moments, but nothing resonates with you. You're like, oh, okay, yeah, classic Greg, that's Greg, because they kept going like, what was the name of the husband that shot himself? I forgot his name.
Gallagher.
I forgot his name. Okay, so they're just like the whole first 40 minutes. Well, that doesn't sound like Gallagher. Now that sounds like Gallagher. That's classic Gallagher. I'm like, who the fuck is Gallagher?
And the backstory that they gave on him wasn't very good. Like, if they gave a good backstory, then you can go back and be like, oh, with that simple dialogue, be like, oh, okay, this guy's a piece of shit. And he's a one-way motherfucker that's just thinking about himself. You know what I mean? And
they never really define that. Yeah,
that happens in movies all the time. But we don't even realize it, because by the time they're going over all this stuff, there's a segue, and then we figure out the backstory a little bit through hearsay. But sometimes that works. That's good enough. You're just the viewer. You don't need to be there. You don't need an eyewitness account. But and hearsay, flashbacks, stories, all that kind of stuff. This one told a shitty story within a shitty story.
Oh yeah, because it's like
it was like an Inception, but just shit.
but like each dream is predominantly less. That makes less sense, and it's like it was like, oh well, he owes us big because we all got together and we formed a team, and then they started explaining all these little psychics that had their specialty, and I'm like, ooh, this is gonna lead up to a classic, like, in an Egyptian pyramid moment where he screws everybody over. It's gonna explain why they still showed up to see him even though they hate him. And then it was just like, he owes us big. Oh, you figured it out, didn't you? And then that was it. I was like,
and I love those moments in the movie where you get like into the third act, and all of a sudden, like, they do something where they flash back and they show you like something prolific like that. And you're like, whoa! And that's that whoa moment, you know?
It's that lock in what the character is and what they stand for.
And this will change everything. It's like, I mean, Memento's a very good example of that.
Yeah.
Because you have no fucking clue what's going on. That movie's a challenging thing to watch the first time. If somebody was watching it and says something like, I couldn't sit through it, I had no idea what was going on, I felt lost the whole time, they're not wrong. That was the intention. And if you can muster your way through 2 hours of that, that's pretty impressive.
But you do walk away feeling like if you don't understand it, you feel like you missed something, not that the movie was missing something.
Right. But with a movie like Memento, if you are able to sit through the entire thing, then you get all the stuff you didn't understand. All of a sudden, there's like a moment where it becomes clear.
Yep.
And like they clarify it for you, and then they re-clarify it. Like they re-clarify it in Memento when he's like, "We'll find another John G. There's always another John G. I'm a fucking John G." And you're like, wow, okay, now we're talking here. And then there's only like 3 minutes in the fucking movie left. But that's what's, yeah. Anyway, I'm digressing. We've barely talked about Puppet Master. I do love the pin-headed puppet. I thought that was awesome. And I love that there was a dwarf that was, not because she was a dwarf, but because it was like a little person holding, like, you know, acting as the puppet's hands. And I just thought the puppet looked ridiculous. And I laughed every time I saw its stupid face.
Yep. Yeah, the like punchy palooka face it had.
Yeah. Nice. So I was going to ask you a question before, and this is where I wanted to tie it in. All right, so there's that couple that's, you know, that psychic couple or whatever. And one of them is like the real, like he's the scientific guy, and the other one like feels things, like she lays in the bed and she knows that like Cary Grant had sex in that bed or something. Anyway, there's a part where the guy is like talking into a tape recorder. Did you feel like he was talking, and this isn't my question, but I just running this by, did you feel like he was trying to talk like Captain Kirk when he was like,
yes,
Captain's log? This is right before, and it was like the cheapest excuse for a sex scene that I've like. There are late night movies on Cinemax that do a better job of writing sex into the movie than this movie did. Terrible job.
Awful. And I knew it was coming too because of, you know, the naughty scenes that kind of started popping up in the beginning. I'm like, they are gonna lead to a dry hump sex scene, and I know it's gonna be fucking awful lead up too.
I gotta be honest though, when he was talking into that might have been one of my favorite parts of the movie because I just laughed my fucking dick off.
See, I don't think it was intentional, but I think the actor was just like, this is gonna be my Captain Kirk moment. This is gonna be my hilarious moment, but I'm gonna make it so obscure that we don't, you know, get copyright infringement because this is straight to video. And I was like, oh my god, this is awful.
What a douche. He looked like a douche.
He looks exactly like the epitome of douche.
My question was, and this is the part that I think I missed. Did he get fucking killed by leeches?
Thank you. I was going to ask the same question.
Okay, good. I didn't miss it. Because I thought I just took my eyes away from the screen for a second. And, like, I saw him get attacked by leeches. Has anybody ever been killed by, like, safe to say, 4 leeches? There were 4 leeches on him at most?
There's no way you would die from 4 leeches. I mean, you could die after contracting some type of bacterial infection or disease, but you're not going to just die in a full-grown, obviously in-shape man is not going to die from 4 leeches unless they're like horror demonic leeches.
Yeah, if they were demonic leeches that were leaving huge bites in him, which if they had done that would have been awesome. That would have been.
Or if they had the leeches just like constantly going up and down his body, biting him, and like basically eating his flesh, then that I could have accepted that.
But none of the kids in Stand By Me got killed by leeches, so I don't think that this guy could get killed by leeches. Yeah.
Stand by Me is a perfectly acceptable ruler for leech attacks, in my opinion. Yes.
It's the yardstick for leech attacks.
It's the yardstick. It totally is. I was actually when all the bodies were put up at the end around the table, I thought the same thing. I was thinking in the back of my head is like, he's totally not dead, but he notices that everybody else is dead, so he's just gonna pretend to be dead, and when everybody else is gone, he's gonna be like, fuck this, rip the leeches off, and just run off into the sunset.
So right after that, I wrote down that for a majority of this movie, you don't know why these puppets are attacking and killing people. They never really give a reason. I mean, they do at the end, but it's not. It's like a loose, dopey reason. Like, they would have been better if they're just fucking evil, and they do it because they can, and that would have been like, oh, okay, well that makes sense. You just the whole time you don't know what's going on, but they don't act like it's just a random act of fucking puppet violence. They act like there's a purpose behind it, but they do just a bullshit job of fucking explaining it.
Which is so sad, because there's like one sentence that, there's an explanation, and I was thinking this too, where you could have just said, well, we thought that we figured out how to bring life to inanimate objects, but what we were doing is we were taking disturbed spirits in limbo and putting them into... Boom!
There it is. It's just like the Reanimator. It's exactly the Reanimator, but that would have been fine.
In the horror culture, that's like, boom, logic right there.
Yeah, that's all you need. There was, so you know how much I love, like, if there's like a shot or something that I love, I usually mention it on here, and there is a great shot in this movie. There's a part where, like, there's a puppet in like the doorway, and his shadow is cast on the ground. He's just standing there really menacing. And I thought it was just a fucking wonderful shot because I loved it just as much as when it happened in the Halloween movies.
That was the sex scene, right?
Yeah, it was right before the sex scene. I think that was a nod to Halloween. That's my honest opinion, is that that was the director, like, tipping his hat to a movie like Halloween because, the shape and all this other stuff. But I still thought it was well done. So it did convey how menacing these puppets all are. You know what I mean? It like I know this is getting silly, but seriously, they're bloodthirsty.
I know these little 10-inch tall items are menacing, which of course I had a tough time suspending my disbelief. And how many times did Pinhead get thrown? And people didn't realize that doesn't stop him.
That doesn't stop him.
It was like 7 times he got thrown against a wall, and everybody's like, oh, it's over.
So, the note that I wrote down for the leech puppet, the leech queen or whatever it was oh, cool, evil sex fuck puppet vomiting leeches. Did you know that the Blade puppet, which is like the main one, that's the one that's on all the boxes and stuff, was actually inspired by, the director was a big fan of Klaus Kinski, and it was inspired by him. I didn't know that until I did research. I think that was pretty wild, because he did, I like Klaus Kinski. The Nosferatu remake was really, really good. I have a conspiracy theory that this puppet inspired the Fisherman from I Know What You Did Last Summer, because the Fisherman looks almost exactly like her, minus the
with the hook. With the hook, yeah.
Yeah, minus the skull face, but like the long hair. I think they switched what look. I mean, in this movie, it looked like a top hat almost, and they switched for like a fisherman's like slicker hat, but they look very, very similar. And so that's my conspiracy theory, is that whoever wrote that, both of these movies are terrible, but that movie is really terrible.
Oh God, yeah.
And they're like, what's an obscure direct-to-video release that I can rip off that does not have the power to sue me? and watch. I mean, we could probably look back now and it may have been put out by Paramount, and Paramount this is Full Moon was on.
It was safe grounds.
Yeah.
Safe grounds.
So I hated the fucking ending of this movie too. The murder mystery whodunit ending was really anticlimactic, and I thought the movie was starting in the second act was starting to do a very good job of building some tension and building some fear, and like kind of like, you know, you're as the character, you're like sort of maybe checking over your shoulder and stuff, like they could just jump out of nowhere. And so it went from silly to being like pretty good, like kind of making up for itself. And it could have been one of those movies where it's like the storyline is total, like the backstory is total bullshit, but like once you really get into the nitty gritty of it, it's a good movie. Like it could have gone that way, and that was all undone by that stupid ending. Yeah, like I said, it took a bad beginning and it kept you watching. The second act was built well, but it wasn't built well enough for the wrecking ball that was the finale. It destroyed the whole movie, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And the ambiguous dog coming back to life, and if an ending can fall apart, this one was a fucking nuclear bomb.
Well, wait a minute. Let's talk about that. What the fuck was that? Like, I was talking about the part where, like, Gallagher's, like, walking around and he's telling, you know...
Oh, and they're fighting?
No, let's talk about the dog part, because I was like, what the fuck just happened? Was she in on it the whole time?
Well, from what I gathered from it, is that she was all the while, she's the one that learned, or was craving to learn the ability to reanimate inanimate objects, and through her own... I'm just this naive girl from a rich family. She found a way to connive Gallagher into bringing him into the home, because he probably had the secret and she could tell he had it. Used him to basically kill her parents, give her a shit ton of money so that she can learn it. And the only way that she could be rid of him is to have this whole circumstance that she may have foreseen in the future, to get all these idiots to come to this house, or come to this hotel and fucking kill each other, because, you know, the puppets are looking at her, especially the one with the spinny face, kept looking at her, and he, like, there's one part where he, like, opened his hand to her, like, are you gonna fucking do something about this? And I'm like, okay, so I'm thinking the movie is hinting that she's the true puppet master at the end of it all.
Just to show how lame the MPAA used to be, they had to... So at the end, one of the puppets cuts off the fingers of Gallagher, of Ghost Gallagher. They had to dye the blood green in order to avoid an X rating for this movie.
I read that. That's ridiculous.
That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. There's what, like, you get maybe 5 seconds tops of boobs in this whole movie, and a sex scene where you don't see anything. And there's and that was too much. Have we not seen like Chainsaw Massacre 2 or Prowler, Prom Night, any of these movies?
I mean, they were obviously fingers from Party City down the street. I mean, they were so fake.
Come on. Like, there was like the... Do you think that because the MPAA in the late 80s and early 90s was so bad that it had an effect on culture? Of, like, people, instead of making the movie and then the MPA rejecting it and forcing them to make cuts, trying to make the movie without having to be told to make cuts. Do you think that actually happened? Because I'm under the belief that that's exactly what happened.
I completely agree with you, but well-done films and filmmakers could have easily sidestepped something as simple as that, stating that in Gallagher's fucking 25-minute rant about nothing, could have said that I'm stronger now, which of course is bullshit, and I've replaced my now my blood has been replaced with I'm having a brain fart right now. What do you get filled with when you're dead, when they put your body up?
Embalming fluid.
Oh, I'm embalming fluid now. He said, now instead of blood coursing through my veins, it's embalming fluid. So when his fingers got cut off, we would have been like, oh, okay, that's embalming fluid. So I think there was many ways to sidestep in this story. Yes, I completely agree with your point that it has, because obviously our culture shaped in this day and age so much by TVs and movies, and to a lesser extent video games, or really anything that's on that screen that's in our living room. So yes, I agree, but in terms of this film and that whole X rating and all that stupid shit, oh my god, it's bullshit.
What'd you rate this one?
I gave it a 1.
Any alibi to that, or just because you usually have a good defense, like your closing argument is usually pretty good. I look forward to
Mike, I have a tough time with the closing argument on this one because of the simple fact that we pretty much touched on it. I so wanted to enjoy the campiness and the straight-to-video quality of this movie, but it didn't seem like the actors were in on it. The plot was convoluted, nonsensical, and I know I'm complaining about a nonsensical plot about puppets coming to life, but if you're listening to this podcast, you're fucking past that. So, the only rating this movie gets is a 1 because I enjoyed the puppets, who really aren't even the stars of this. They try to make everybody else the star, and like you said, this like Clue murder mystery whodunit thing, and I did not enjoy this movie, and it wasn't even just a oh, this movie scared me, or oh, this movie's pretentious. I just legitimately was watching the clock, and at an hour and 20 minutes, and I'm watching the clock. That's a big problem.
Yeah, I was doing the same thing. I gave it a 1.5, and I probably edged it over to it's a soft 1.5, and it's because Barbara Crampton's in it. And that's enough for me to. You could slap Barbara Crampton's name on any movie, and I'll pick it up. Especially if it's from 1992 or before that. I'll just buy it. I don't care. Because I like her. I think she does a good job. I think she's a good actress. She's far undersung, but that's because of the movies that she's chosen to make her profession.
So you're going to give a 0.5 increase on her being in the scene for 95 seconds?
Yeah, I am.
I love it. Perfect.
I also think it was, I think she was the only one in on the joke, and the reason is because they tell you that the location right before that scene is in Yale, right? Yeah. They say it's in Yale University. That's where Alex is working. They never give you another location. They just cut to a carnival. So they don't say this is in Louisiana. Unless I'm wrong. And if I'm wrong, it doesn't make any bit of difference anyway. But, and she's at this carnival with this hillbilly. And
job.
And you have to assume she's still in Connecticut and she's talking with a deep Southern accent. I think that she was the only one that was in on the joke.
And you know what? Now that I think about it, now that you're saying that, she was the only character that I actually related with in the entire fucking movie. Because in a few lines, she created a backstory of a pretty young girl who is obviously infatuated with, a classic bad boy, dropped out of school and wants to have kids and get married, but but will he ever find a job? You know, she was the only character that actually had depth.
Yeah. Also, I mean, part of the difference between my rating and yours is that one shot that I talked about earlier. The one that was like basically a rip-off of Halloween, or a nod to Halloween.
Yeah.
I won't say, and nobody rips off it. Well, everybody rips off everyone.
Well, yeah, and 1 and 1.5, I mean, at this point, it's splitting hairs. We both did not give this movie a decent rating.
No, we did not.
And you know, on the last point, I just want to say about that one scene is that the entire time, I thought Barbara was going to be the star of this movie, and I thought the gypsy was just like a joke character thrown in, and I was like, oh, well, she's a big character? Oh, okay.
This movie was shot on such a budget that they probably couldn't have afforded Barbara Crampton at that point.
No way.
It's post Reanimator, and but they could have flipped it around. You know what would have been really cool? Let's rewrite this movie real quick. Mm-hmm. Because what's her name was telling her like a bogus fortune.
Mm-hmm.
If
obviously
Barbara Crampton turned around and told her fortune, and then she gets placed in the movie as that character. You know what I mean? Like the White Witch or whatever they were calling her.
That would have been cool.
Now that would have been cool, and that probably would have upgraded this movie up to at least a 2.
Yeah, I agree with that.
At least. So let's move on to Demonic Toys.
For 66 years, evil has been waiting, watching, wanting for someone to play with its toys.
Gonna have a lot of fun here tonight, friend.
Get back!
It's the toys. Someone's inside the toys. What do you want?
Oopsie daisy.
Before the night is through, I'll be born in a human body, flesh and blood.
Demonic Toys. Playtime has begun.
Okay, so Demonic
Toys... Wait, hold up.
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Gotta do my drive-by. Demonic Toys was released in 1992. It was directed by Peter Manoogian. It's a great last name.
Fantastic.
Body count 5, naughty count 1. I don't have many details because this went direct to video. So there's not a whole lot on it. But do your thing.
Sorry. So,
you're good.
Through a random string of events, a police officer, 2 criminals, a chicken delivery man, and a security guard all end up in a warehouse that houses wholesale toys. What they are unaware of is that beneath the rubble, beneath the cement of the warehouse, lives a demonic spirit that is trying to force itself back into the physical plane, which is the only way to do that is to draw blood from the dead, and through another method, but the only objects it has at its disposal is your child's favorite toys, which is a fantastically awful premise.
Yeah. It's a good thing I like watching bad movies. I don't think anyone has spent half the amount of time talking about this movie as we are about to spend on it.
Yes, I completely agree with that statement.
It's loaded with dumb stunts. There's a fall down the stairs in the early goings of the movie that it's like straight out of Amateur Hour. It was horrible looking, and I just would. I want to know what the logic was there, where it's like, nah, you don't have to do it again. Then we'll take care of that. And it was just horrible. Also, these cops are fucking terrible at their job.
Terrible.
In the beginning, she runs into a toy factory after a perp. No backup. No call for backup. Nothing. Then later,
Partner gets shot.
Partner gets shot. You have to, don't you call that in like immediately?
Instantly you call that in.
Like, anyway. Then later in the movie, she's trapped in a room with the perp and starts firing at the wall. Do you know what that wall's made of? Do you know who's on the other side of that wall? What if the bullets bounce back and hit you in the fucking face? What an idiot. And all of that could have been avoided. This whole movie could have been avoided if they called for backup. If she just went and called for backup. Officer down. Backup. Assistance required. Whatever they fucking say on the radio. It was a bad job.
This movie could have been avoided is that when they decided to announce they were police, number one, they could have waited till the guy at the trunk put the fucking shotgun down. Second, the cop, could have pointed the gun that was next to him at the guy that was next to him with a shotgun in his hands, and then let his girlfriend/partner put the gun on the other guy who doesn't have anything. It was just bad police work all around.
Then again, puppet horror is still way better than CGI, and you know if this came out today, it would be loaded with terrible CGI.
Oh god, yeah, and that the puppet work was a lot of fun in this movie. It was far from realistic, but I giggled a lot more at this movie than I did at Puppet
Oh,
Master.
yeah, the puppets look totally silly. But they were still, they managed to be effective. They're, as silly as they looked at times, they still managed to be effective.
And I did like the practical effects on the kid.
Yeah, but I hated the kid himself. But just thought,
Really?
I thought it was like a very, what's the word I'm looking for? I'm gonna have a hard time describing this. But he sort of acted like, you know how like Macaulay Culkin as a kid used to kind of overact?
I was thinking overacting was the word in my mouth.
Yeah.
It was the word in my head, yep.
But it was like, it was almost to the point where like when I was growing up, my parents hated Macaulay Culkin. They hated him. They're like, he's a bratty little kid. With no evidence to back that up. What did Macaulay Culkin do that was so bad? He sued his parents for ripping off his money, because they did. That's what he's...
And he was right to do so.
He was right to do so. He probably is... Macaulay Culkin just a bad actor that was in a really funny movie. And a couple of funny movies. And he just...
Because he's like Haley Joel Osment, same thing. He was a tow-haired little kid that could at least speak lines.
Yeah, he probably was... That's it. He could remember lines. And that's more than most kids his age can do.
And didn't piss his pants, pretty much, yeah.
Yeah. This kid totally overacted. It was like stage acting, in a way, for him. Because, like, you know when... If you've ever seen, like, any sort of, like, Broadway production or anything, a stage actor acts a lot differently because their movements have to be able to be seen and understood in the very back of the room. The person with the worst seat has to understand what's going on. It's not a...
Well, it's because we don't have a close-up shot to get the nuances of the look on their faces. I completely agree.
Exactly, and this kid was doing the same thing. And it might not be his fault. He may actually have been a stage actor, and they were like, you got the part, kid. You think you could get green eyes?
Here's a Kit Kat bar. Here's your payment.
But then again, you know, when watching this movie, I was like, I thought to myself, isn't this what horror movies are supposed to be? Bad acting, shitty security guards, monsters and demons from out of left field. I want this style of movie to be brought back and done right. I'm like anybody else. I like a good cerebral movie, but I can still appreciate like a modern version of something like this that isn't handcuffed to CGI.
Oh yeah, and there's definitely two things, and I was preparing this in my mind, and I'm glad we talked about it in the first one. There were two things in this movie that I felt was lacking in the first one, And the first point is the actors felt like they were in on it.
Like in on the joke?
They were in on the joke. They were in on the campiness.
I agree.
That made it... It almost made the movie believable because it was so ridiculous and out of left field and crazy and borderline stupid. But the actors honestly felt like they were overacting on purpose. Maybe not the kid, but the adult actors, I just felt like they played such crazy, wacky, stupid morons, and I'm like, they know what they're in.
Look,
they know what they're doing.
There's bad acting, and then there's bad acting, and this was bad acting. This was really, really bad, fucking terrible acting. Like, rethink your whole shit acting. That's what this was.
Exactly, and that it fit. The puzzle piece fit. Even though the puzzle together is still a piece of shit, at least the puzzle pieces fit into a picture of shit.
I think that the fat security guard was in... I'm almost positive he was in Terminator 2. He was in the biker bar in the beginning. I need your clothes, your boots, and your motorcycle. That part. I'm almost positive that was him. But there were... I thought there were a lot more upsides to this movie than there were to Puppet Master. For one, Baby Oopsie Daisy was fucking hilarious.
Oh my god. Laughed every time with Baby Oopsie Daisy.
Pop goes the fucking weasel.
Oh my god. I can't find it. I wrote down all her quotes somewhere, and I was just dying laughing every time she was there, and that stupid smile they would make her do.
Yeah, it was terrible. But it was so bad it was good. This is one of those movies that kind of gets to that place. You know what I mean?
It did. It definitely touched that base.
I also like the part where they were asking questions out loud, and the demon was putting the answers together in the building blocks. I thought that was fucking cool.
That was cool.
The pacing on this movie was a real dick pain, though. I think it was just as we didn't really hit that one as hard in Puppet Master, but this is, along the same lines. The pacing was terrible.
Oh yeah, it you're right. It didn't really, like you mentioned, the first movie had acts. This movie didn't feel like it had an act. It was just kind of going down a fucking water slide that had rocks on it, and it was just like bang, 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 bang. Oh yeah, it's just like, oh hey, fucking ratty hipster girl comes out of a fucking tube, and they're just like,
yeah, what the fuck was that about?
Right?
Oh, hey guys, I've been here the whole time. You mean while I was shooting in that direction?
Yeah, exactly. And they all were just like, yeah, okay, yeah, you're here.
And just like Puppet Master, there's this demon backstory that didn't even need to be there. This movie could have been about 10 minutes shorter. Had they... maybe for the finale, sure, it might have been essential. But the whole backstory and explanation was like taking way too fucking long. I was watching it going, oh my god. And that's when I started to watch the clock. So I'm like, oh god. It was just...
We'll see.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
But there I'm actually going to agree and simultaneously disagree with you, because that's my second point. At least this movie has a resemblance of a reason why things are happening.
The reason was much better. I'll give you that.
Yes, it was drawn out, over dramatic, and the stupid fucking like progressive metal 80s music video dream that she has with the clocks and the two kids playing War was really, really, really stupid.
That was like a Megadeth video.
Exactly right. Actually, one of my favorite bands is Dream Theater, and they made a music video, and it had like the big clocks in it with like the long 80s hair and like the like triangular bright colored shirts, and I was just like, holy shit, I'm in the middle of a fucking Dream Theater music video right now. Why is this happening?
They could have easily done this as the Toy Factory was built on top of an Indian burial ground, and once blood was spilt, it awoke the
the evil spirits, the vengeful spirits of the Indians buried beneath, they possess the toys to kill everyone inside. Done. You don't need it. You didn't, and then you could have had like but then again, you wouldn't have had the grand demon part. But still, you could have made up for that with some action. I mean, you could have pushed back that part where they're mowing down all those fucking toys. That one. I love that part, by the way. Where they're firing shotgun blasts and there's only like one round, it's only like one it's like a rifle shot, like it's like a snipe.
From far away. or the non-toy girls with gas masks that are just hallucinations out of nowhere, but then they go away.
Actually, that part where they point, where those girls point up to the rafters when they're
great.
That was great.
Probably one of the best scenes.
Yeah, that was actually legitimate. I was I was like, wow, that was a cool part. I thought it was awesome. I wish the movie they should have built the movie around that part. Sometimes you need to do that. Sometimes a movie is built around one part that's really scary or really thrilling, and this movie tried to do way too much. It was way, and I would like to call it ambitious, but this is a straight up C movie.
Can it be ambitious for a C movie? I can kind of go with that.
Yeah, I mean, look, so the whole point of this production house was to make these direct-to-video releases, but do it in a way where they look like Hollywood releases. All the trappings of a Hollywood movie are there, minus big-time Hollywood players and Hollywood budgets. That's really what a C movie is. And a B movie is the same thing, but a B movie usually is like the perfect B movie is, maybe I'm wrong. Somebody's probably going to correct me on this. But Cue the Winged Serpent, to me, is one of the most perfect B movies that you can ever ask for. Because you've got actors on their way out, and the budget's really low, and you've got not so great effects, but the story is still intact. Q is it's a good story. It's a good movie.
Still well written, exactly. No real up and comers. Maybe one or two flash in the pan actors that may make it, kind of like your 4th or 5th round draft picks. Maybe they become Richard Sherman, but and a couple of 34-year-old veterans.
Right, exactly. That's where that movie's at. C movie, just take it down even another notch. It's like AA ball.
Yep.
And then there's other classifications too, like Psychotronic and Z movies, but the trauma movies are the Z movies because they're just out of left fucking field. Like Toxic Avenger, Sergeant Kabuki and shit like that. And they're all great. I love all those movies. I love the Class of Nukem High. I love it.
Nice.
If you haven't seen that, have you seen that movie yet?
No, I haven't.
Do yourself a favor. You're not what are you doing this weekend? Anything?
I got a 3-day weekend.
Oh, dude,
man.
just park it for an hour. It's on Netflix. Just watch it. It's amazing. You'll love it. You'll be thanking me. It's hilarious. You've never laughed harder in your life.
Nice.
So, like I said, I love that, but I did love that part when all the toys came alive. There's not just the main toys, like all the other ones came alive, and they just started mowing them down. I thought that was really fucking cool. There was some mild eyeball gore, but it was also followed by some of the worst makeup effects I have ever seen.
Oh, on the male demon, the full-grown demon?
Not the full-grown, no. Right before he comes into the picture, when her dead boyfriend blinds himself, and then he's got like that, what almost looks like a dead skin mask on, but it's clearly like paper mache. It reminded me, there's a movie that came out in 1962 called Brainiac, and I think it came out in Spain. I don't want to offend anybody, but I think it's a Spanish movie. I watched it. The movie's only like 62 minutes long. It's really short. And that's another classic example of like a B movie. It's got like a B movie monster, And the movie monster had like the same exact setup for his eyes because it just was supposed to. They were trying to convey like sunken in eyes, but it worked better in that movie because that movie was black and white, so it just made it look really creepy and weird. This one just looked like I can see the paper mache hasn't dried yet.
Yeah, they just stuck it on his face and then made it like gave him holes on his face, and I was like, well, if you pulled your eyes out, I don't think your eyelids would get smaller and stick out.
Right. Action.
Yeah.
I laughed.
I
thought. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. I thought the demon at the end was very poorly done as well. I guess maybe because I felt I laughed so hard at how ridiculous and over the top the puppets were, especially and the toys, especially because out of nowhere a fucking 6-foot bear comes to life that we never saw.
That was awesome.
It's just a guy in a fucking like second-rate Chewbacca suit that they like glued teeth on. And,
yeah, you never see it. Like you never really.
You never see the
it.
toy. Like that would have been a perfect foreboding moment where like maybe in the beginning they show like in the corner like they lighted up just this giant stuffed bear, and they'd be like, oh shit, that's gonna come to life at some point. No, it's just like, oh look, here's Chewbacca. He's gonna fucking attack the chicken guy. And but I was really hoping for a stupid, really cheap, fake, over-the-top Satan creature, and what I got was a guy in a black fucking monk's outfit with some sheep horns glued on, and I'm like, God, he doesn't have sharp teeth. It's like I want something more. He doesn't even have a fucking forked tongue. He's got a normal tongue.
Yeah, and but his lines were fucking terrible too.
So bad.
They're like there wasn't even dialogue. It was just like I'm gonna climb on top of you and we're gonna do the nasty, and you're not gonna survive the birth.
Trust me, I'm not gonna let you survive the birth.
And then of course it ends in the dumbest way possible with the toy soldier is her is like the inner child. God.
It was so unnecessarily.
What's your name?
cringeworthy.
You haven't named me yet. Fuck off.
Well, Mommy, I didn't want to die. I haven't been born yet, so I'm still a spirit. What? And the whole fact of the matter of why the corpse is there had a really convoluted reason. Like the fact that this demonic doctor, no explanation, back like ages, like six years ago or whatever it was, a demonic doctor and some random person are taking a demon baby out of a woman who seems perfectly normal, and for some reason that demon baby doesn't live. So
let's give it to some trick-or-treaters.
Give us some fucking trick-or-treaters.
What the fuck was that about?
And what's funny too is the kids are so happy about it. They're like, she's like, I've got something better than candy. I'm going to give him to you. And what you're going to do is you're going to plant him in the garden. And you're going to plant him somewhere. And he's going to grow up and he's going to dissipate. And he's going to be born in someone else. And the kids are like, okay, yay!
You mean I gotta dig a fucking hole? Give me a goddamn Snickers bar, bitch. You fucking kidding me?
I don't care what decade it is. No kid is going to take a fucking chore over chocolate.
No.
And then,
how fucking lazy are you?
And they ran like a fucking mile away and like with a satchel from a weird old fucking lady. And finally, when they're about to go through on her mission, they decide to look at what's in the satchel. And then they're like, oh my God, it's a demon baby. Like, if somebody handed me a fucking black satchel with something in it that they're referring to as him, and I was just like, okay, this is awkward, I'm gonna go around the corner, I'm looking at that shit. I'm not just going, yay, it's a tree. Oh, it was so fucking stupid. They could have they could have been like, another failed one. Okay, Marlene, we gotta go bury this one.
And this is like the 80s too. This is the point where people are checking their fucking kids' candy for razor blades and shit.
Yep.
Those kids were told to go straight home. Let's be honest.
Absolutely.
My parents, like, we had a neighbor down the street who used to make the caramel apples. She used to make them on her own. And like 3 Halloweens in a row, I always picked that one because I had never had one, and I always wanted one. They look great, right? They look a lot better then than they do now. I probably would, my teeth would rot right out right now.
Yeah.
But my mom would be like, "Oh no, we're throwing that out. You don't know if there's razor blades in there." Like, but mom, you know, I don't want to say her name on the podcast because she might not appreciate that. But
no. Mama Bloodbath.
I'm gonna call her. Well, not my mom, but like the lady down the street. I don't want to like dime her out or anything. I'm gonna call her Jolene. But mom, Jolene from down the street, she's the one that gave it to me. Still don't know. Jesus, so much for.
So now as a little like sprightly young like 7-year-old kid, you ride your bike past her house and look at her door like, what are you fucking up to, Jolene?
Yeah, no, and they went over Jolene's house all the time. Where our kids are like, I was friends with you know, with their kids and stuff. It was just weird. It was a weird thing. Do you do Halloween by you? Do kids come by or no?
I live in a complex, so kids don't come by. When I used to live on like a residential street a little while ago, kids came by. I always gave them the normal like variety bags of stuff because I don't want anybody coming back and saying, "You gave this to my child and you may have poisoned it with anthrax," you know.
Yeah, you know, a couple years ago, same thing. We lived on a residential street, and we I thought we gave away like, you know, pretty decent sized Snicker bars and Milky Ways and shit, full size Milky Ways if I remember. And
nice.
Yeah, for real, I love Halloween.
No.
But and we carved out the jack-o'-lanterns. We carved out. I think we carved out like one of them was like a Hot Water Music one. The other one was Black Flag. If my memory serves me correctly.
Fucking awesome.
Yeah. So we're gonna just.
So the little like fireball from.
Yeah.
The little Black Flag emblem.
So yeah. Or the Hot Water
bars.
Music one. Yeah.
The Hot Water Music fireball, and then like the Black Flag bars.
Yeah. I think like this year. Well, actually, this year we won't be doing it. But next year, I should be moved in to a house that I own. Hopefully, fingers crossed. And I'm gonna take jack-o'-lantern carving extremely fucking seriously. Absolutely, I'm gonna do it.
Don't doubt that. Don't doubt that at all.
I laughed my fucking balls off when that demon died, though.
Yeah, so did I.
Reals, I laughed so hard. That was awesome. What was your rating on this?
I gave it a 2 for the reasons that I mentioned before. I gave it a 2 because it was worse, and it felt like it was purposely worse. And like I said before, I felt like they were all in on the joke. The story at least had a plot, and it had I can't say it had a reason, but it had an explanation as to why things occurred. And even though it was awful, I enjoyed it, so I gave it a 2.
I also gave it a 2.
Nice.
I didn't. It's something I would watch again. If I passed by it on and it was on Blu-ray, I'd buy it. I wouldn't buy it if it was too expensive. If it was anything more than like $7 or $8, I would never buy it.
Speaking of which, I actually just bought one of my favorite movies from this podcast on Blu-ray the other day.
What'd you buy?
It Follows.
Oh, good for you. Did you buy it with the cool cover, the retro thing, where it's like animated or not animated, like it's a cartoon, or does it just have the car?
This just has the car. They were out of the. I was walking through Best Buy with my mom, and they had like it's like called like pop art or whatever. Like they're doing the cool covers or whatever.
Yeah.
Of old movies, or not even old movies, like some new movies. I saw It Follows. It was sold out. But they had the original cover for $4.99 as opposed to like the $8.99 for the pop art cover, and I was like, $4.99 for It Follows on Blu-ray, and my mom's like, "What is that?" I'm like, "We're gonna watch this at some point because this movie is fucking awesome, and I want to watch it again."
Yeah, it's so good, so good.
It was so good.
All right, guys. Well, that's going to conclude another episode of Blood, Guts, and Blu-ray. We three appreciate you for... that was my fucking brother walking in. Well, at least I wasn't masturbating again. We appreciate everybody's support, and we just ask you to continue to rate, review, and subscribe to all their, to all of our stuff, our YouTube and all that other bullshit. Until then, toodaloo.
Thank you for listening to Blood, Guts, and Blu-ray. Written and hosted by Bloodbath, Bub, and Brett 667. Edited and produced by Bloodbath. Music has been graciously provided by the Slasher Film Festival Strategy and Nightbirds. Artwork and logo have been provided by Bub. Blood, Guts, and Blu-ray is available on iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn, and YouTube. Be sure to follow us on Facebook, as well as @BloodGutsBluray on Twitter, @BloodGutsandBluray on Instagram, and visit our Tumblr page by going to bloodgutsandbluray.tumblr.com. For any questions regarding the show, advertising, or anything else, please send an email to bloodgutsandbluray@gmail.com. Thanks again. Get possessed.